By Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Man's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SOCCERTODAY at manscaped.com.
Ya lo hace, pierna derecha, directo al arco, golazo, golazo, golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane Rollins and Kevin Laramie, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
Good day, good night. Welcome to Soccer Today for Thursday, June 9th, 2022. I'm Kevin Laramie, and Duane Rollins will be joining me in just a few seconds. If you're watching us live on Twitter, welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for subscribing and clicking on that notification bell to make sure you are aware whenever we upload a brand new show. Busy show for you today. Yes, there's some breaking news in legal department in Vancouver regarding the Bob Barada situation, sexual harassment and assault over the last few decades and more. We will break that down tomorrow's show. We know there's also legal breaking news in Europe with Platini and Blatter. We will break it down tomorrow. Today is Canada versus Curacao, the preview show. Duane, how are you today?
Yeah, also Ecuador might get kicked out of the World Cup.
Yeah, just a little, no biggie. Ecuador kicked out of the World Cup. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, all that stuff. How am I doing? Yeah, pretty good. It should be good. Looking forward to actually paying attention to a game tonight. Although, we'll see how this goes. I think it's going to be a 24-hour sort of like pause before we get back into the other stuff. But here we go.
Well, you know what? The best way to maybe get back on this situation is to listen to John Herdman's comment yesterday. There was a scrum, and a couple of those scrums were very interesting. There's about a minute clip we're going to play here where John Herdman talks about, well, let's just listen to John Herdman, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, it's been an emotional week. I think the staff, myself, the players, it's been really emotional. I think this group, there's a lot we've experienced on this journey over the last 4 years, from the travel into Haiti and the pandemic, playing in front of no fans. But that was different. Yeah, that was different. So, the role I've played is it's a thin line when you're a coach. I love these guys. We've been in some battles together, and I respect where they're coming from. I've seen the sacrifices they've made. I've seen what they've earned on the journey. I've seen guys doing ACL while playing for the country and putting their careers on the line, so I get it. But also recognise Qatar's just round the corner, Ollie, and this was it wasn't how we expected it to go this week. So, but they're back focused, and hopefully we can get on the pitch and start inspiring people again.
Hopefully that is tonight versus Curacao. What do you think about John Herdman's comments?
I mean, he played it down the middle as he had to do. There was a headline in the Vancouver province that sort of says "stuck in the middle," referencing that old song that there's clowns on the right and jokers on the left. That's kind of saying that maybe there's not anyone that's perfect in this, and John Herdman's kind of just stuck there trying to play both sides of it, because obviously he works for the CSA, but he has to work with the players. Look. Both him and Atiba Hutchinson spoke yesterday in the scrum before the game. They both were, I think, well spoken about it. You would expect them from both men. John Herdman, always has sort of a calming voice, is always sort of a voice of reason in these sort of situations. Who knows what's getting said behind closed doors, but he is a man that uses everything under the sun to create psychological advantages for his team. So I suspect that he has twisted this and is behind closed doors using this as something to motivate.
And this is somehow going to be Curaçao's fault. And tonight, Curacao is going to be put to the sword. I guess that's what's going to happen. You know what, guys? This was all Curaçao's fault. So let's make sure we beat Curacao 7-0 and show the country how we can inspire them. Because that's what I'll remember. It's time to inspire the country once again. And that happens on the pitch, which we will have a game tonight. League A, the CONCACAF Nations League is upon us. Let's look at what it means for Canada Here are the groups, Duane. In League A, we're not going to go down to League B and League C today. But in the CONCACAF Nations League, League A, Group A is Jamaica, Suriname, Mexico. Group B is Panama, Costa Rica, and Martinique. Group C, Curacao, Honduras, and Canada. And Group D, El Salvador, Grenada, and the United States. As we speak, those are the standings, but the big clubs like Mexico, Canada, Honduras haven't played yet. Clubs like Jamaica and others have already played a few games, just like Curacao. And later today, we will break down Curaçao's projected lineup and also Canada's projected lineup by myself. So we will look at that later today when we look at this maybe important game when it comes to confidence building time. Duane, the Nations League, over the years, it has been helpful. This is Canada's first time in the League A of the Nations League. What is your thought on this competition?
I think it's a very useful competition, particularly for the lower ranked teams in CONCACAF. I think that a women's division, which they're sort of instituted a little bit in terms of World Cup qualifying, would be even more helpful. So hopefully we can see that continue on forward. Look, for countries like Mexico and the United States, and now Canada and Costa Rica, and countries that are competing, for more than just CONCACAF titles now, and I put Canada in that for the first time in a long time, then maybe it has a little less cachet, but I think it is still valuable to the region. The games, you can watch them all on One Soccer. They have the rights to this competition. I'm not trying to advertise for them, but if you do have that service, they're all on replay. I've been putting them on in the background as I work during the day, and it's keeping me up to date in this competition. You see
Duane was breaking down the Curacao match, and I was like, all right, great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. I also watched Jamaica Suriname. We'll say about the Jamaica Suriname game. I'm not going to break into it, obviously, the details, but the passion, the crowd there, and it was in Suriname, a place that Canada played, and there's been a lot of talk about what they might be able to do in the next cycle. And there was a great pop when Suriname scored a goal against Jamaica, and they drew that game 1-1 that I watched, and that shows how important it is to nations of that size. So you look at your Martinique, Martinique's not an official team, but it's important for them.
Well, if you're new to the show, let's explain. Martinique is a prefecture of the French department, as we could say, and they're not a fully FIFA-fledged nation. They are given the opportunity to participate in the Nations League and in also other CONCACAF competitions like the Gold Cup. So Martinique, and there's a couple others like this, they're not actually gathering FIFA ranking points, and when you beat them, you actually don't make FIFA ranking points. And for once, well, Canada's not in the same group as Martinique, because the last few times Canada played Martinique, it cost Canada FIFA ranking points, which in the whole equation didn't matter at the end because Canada qualified, but over the last two Gold Cups, Canada lost FIFA points by playing Martinique.
Yeah, well, and the losses, and I did this math before, had Canada gotten the full points for winning games at the Gold Cup against Martinique and Guadeloupe, the other team that they played in there that's non-official, they would have been in the top six and would have qualified for the original plan. But at any rate, water under the bridge, they got there, it doesn't matter. This is a competition onto its own. When it comes to Canada, what's this matter? I think it matters. I think if you're the Canadian national team, particularly likely, well, it's not going to be likely, coming out of a World Cup appearance, because the next windows are in March of 23, pardon me, is the next time they'll do this after the next two games. They should be looking to win this. This is a competition that Canada should be looking to win outright, to beat Mexico and the United States, to beat Costa Rica or whoever it is in that Final Four, to win their group, get to the Final Four, and win the damn thing. That's what they should be doing. So they need to win tonight. And from that perspective, if you look at this as a competition and not as a warm-up to the World Cup, because it can be underwhelming as a warm-up to the World Cup, but on a competition perspective, it is vital because this is match day 3. They played each other twice. They're 1-1. Each have won one. So if Canada wins the next two games, they pretty much won the group at that point. And true. They can start to think they had their next March and win another couple of games, and then they can play a final, and that's a good preparation to lead up to 26. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
No, we're definitely getting way ahead of ourselves. And if you like Duane and I, when we talk about the Canadian men's national team, you can find the Two Solitudes podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/2solitudes. This is our premium podcast here, and thank you to all the brand new patrons. We'll talk about it later in the shout out segment when we talk about the greatest human beings on earth, the one that supports our show and our Patreon ventures. Let's look at Canada's roster, Duane, because Canada will play tonight against Curacao. Here are the available players for John Herdman. In net, representing Red Star Belgrade, Milan Boyan. Maxime Crépeau is available and Dane St. Clair also. Samuel Adekube, who's now at Atesport FC. Daniel Henry, Alistair Johnston, Scott Kennedy, Richie Larea of Nottingham Forest, a.k.a. the Sheriff Richie. Kamal Miller of CF Montreal, and Steven Vittoria of Moreirense FC, who unfortunately is going down next season. Midfielders, there's 5 midfielders. Raheem Edwards of the LA Galaxy. We'll talk about Raheem Edwards later when I give you my predicted lineup. I believe Raheem Edwards will be tested comes Nations League. Stefan Eustachio, Atiba Hutchinson, Mark Anthony Kay, Samuel Piet are your midfielders for this window. Charles Andrea Brim, we'll see what he has in store. Will he get some playing time for the young kid playing in the Netherlands for FC Eindhoven? Tejan Buchanan of Club Brugge, my favorite Belgium club. Come on, Tejan, win a couple trophies this year already. Glory to Tejan. Lucas Cavallini, Jonathan David, who already earlier today was in the news, Duane, because Lille mentioned that, even though Sanchez and maybe another big name will be leaving, Jonathan David is set to stay at Lille. Jonathan David is set to not be sold this summer. Will he have something else to say? Will he bag a couple goals to maybe entice other clubs to buy him? Junior Oilet of Reading FC. Lucas Cogliosho won't play tonight. He's back to his club because this was always a friendly potential, but not for the Nations League for Luca Cogliosho. He has left the club for now. Cal Laren and Ike Ugbo finishes this lineup. What do you think when you look at this available pool of players, Duane?
First off, it illustrates how committed John Herdman is to the group that got him there. He's going to dance with who brung him. There are a few new players in there. I think there's probably less than 2-3 spots available for November that people are competing to. As you mentioned, Raheem Edwards jumps out as the name that probably is most likely on that list to get on there. In terms of players not there, that obviously Jonathan Nazaro is hurt. We can agree to disagree on whether he's going to be a key starter at the World Cup, but nonetheless, he will be on that World Cup roster.
And if you don't know what Duane is referencing, is because I have a really, really hot take on Jonathan Nazario available on the Two Solitudes podcast.
Exactly. So, and I countered that point. But however, we won't spoil it too much. Subscribe for $2 a month or more, and you can listen to that. I want to see Richie Larea play because he hasn't played in a while. But what I was saying above that is the only player not on this roster that I really could see maybe jumping in is Iowa Kanola, who's a player that I want to talk about maybe next week if we have some downtime, because I'm interested to sort of get a take on where he is on his recovery. He's had flashes of what he's been with TFC in the past, but he's not quite there yet. So that's the only player I can see maybe breaking in that's not on this roster, because it's going to be a tight group. The other thing about this, you might want to use the opportunity to bridge some young players, particularly if you get ahead. There's not a lot on that roster, but there is the kid that's playing in the Netherlands, as you mentioned there. I'm not sure if is he dual national. I'm not 100% sure on that, but nonetheless, you can cap tie. This does cap tie, so it's a useful competition that way too.
Exactly. And we'll maybe know more about the plans and John Herdman and what he thinks for the future of September and for November for the World Cup, because there will be some tests, and we'll talk about it later today when I give you my breakdown for the Canadian men's national team projected lineup for the game against Curacao later tonight. Now, it is time to talk about our sponsor, Manscaped. Over the last few days, we've talked about Manscaped, and we, of course, thank Manscaped for sponsoring today's show. It is our sponsor for the time being. Being soccer players and athletic to begin with, well, especially lately, I really enjoy the Manscaped boxers that come in the Performance Package 4.0. The boxers are anti-chafing, so when you wear them, you reduce pain. The pain that comes from movement from your personal areas or your thighs. I really support the anti-chafing Manscaped product. Also, when you mix it with a crop preserver and the crop toner, which are deodorant and toner for your personal area, it really helps with the anti-chafing. Being a soccer player, a cyclist, and enjoying going to the gym. I have to say, those products have been part of my daily routine over the last few weeks. But the main aspect of the performance package is, of course, a Lawnmower 4.0, the best personal and body clipper I've ever used in my entire life. This is not just because we're sponsored. It has an amazing amount of power, light, and it's not that noisy. Look, it barely makes any noise. It is waterproof. You can use it in the shower, and for me, it's very useful for also the charging. It is wireless charging. You can have it neatly tucked in somewhere in a corner. You put it on, it charges, and it's very long lasting. And of course, the last part of the Performance Package 4.0 is the Weed Whacker for your ears and for your nose. Very helpful. And when you order on manscaped.com with the code SOCCER today, get free shipping, 20% off, and you get a nice, it's called a travel bag in leather, beautiful thing, and you get more at manscaped.com with the code SOCCER today. Unlock your confidence. Use the perfect tool for the job. And once again, manscaped.com, code SOCCER today. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll give our projected lineup for Canada and for Curacao. We'll look at who to look for Curacao and more on Soccer Today.
You are listening to Soccer Today. Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTodaySPN and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Sports Podcasting Network.
And we're back on Soccer Today. Kev Laramie with Duane Rollins. Duane, we've been talking about over the last few minutes about the two Solitudes Soccer podcasts, and since yesterday, we have a brand new member of the shout-out tier. I would like to say thank you very much personally to Sean Richardson, who has joined the shout-out tier yesterday, upping his pledge from $2 to $5. What a great example for everyone to follow. Upping your pledge. Join the shout-out tier. Sean Richardson from Montreal, a great teacher, also a great member of 127 Montreal, a supporters group. And you can find our podcast at patreon.com/2solitudes. This is where you can also join the shout-out tier. Our podcast, Soccer Today, is available everywhere you get your podcasts. And Duane, we have quite a projected lineup. Alphonso Davies is back in the fold. We might see the Fonz play for Canada for the first time in a while. What are you expecting tonight? Also, we've talked about Raheem Edwards, and I have him in my projected lineup. Let's have a look and let's talk about Raheem Edwards and what we could see from him tonight. Here is what I think we're going to see. I think a 3-4-3 is in order. They play a 4-2-3-1. We'll talk about Curacao later. And tactically speaking, the midfield battle could be won on the width, the corridors, the pistons. I see Tajon Buchanan and Raheem Edwards being the key to victory tonight. What do you think about Raheem Edwards this season?
I mean, look, yeah, this is probably close to what it will look like. It's Curacao. Don't disrespect Curacao. They are better than people think they are because they can draw from a larger player pool than it would look like you indicated. But there's still a team that this Canadian team going to the World Cup should be able to handle fairly comfortably. I'm not saying 7-0, but maybe 2-3-0 is a likely scoreline. They're going to try and get on the front foot. They're going to try and get out and attack and have some fun. One of the things I think that's important for this window for these players, a lot of them that are burned out from a long season, a big qualifying campaign. They played a lot of football. They've been injured at times. Is to let them go out and express themselves and have a little entertainment in front of the home crowd to relieve from the pressure they've been under for the last little while. So yeah, I anticipate that John Herdman will unleash this team, let them run, let them get out there, and hopefully the adopted hometown kid in Alphonso Davies can get himself a goal for the adopted home crowd.
Let's break down this lineup because for our podcast viewers that are listening, they don't see the graphics. So Milan Borjan in net, Kamal Miller, Daniil Henry, and Alistair Johnston is my backline in this projected lineup for Canada in a 3-4-3 formation, might I add. Raheem Edwards is my left corridor player. Mark Anthony Kaye, Atiba Hutchinson are my central midfielder. and I will change for the next game. I will use both Hutchinson and Eustáquio. It's about spreading the minutes, and you don't need to know anything about these players. You don't have any questions regarding Hutchinson or Eustáquio. Marc-Annick, I do have some questions because last time he played, got a red card. So we need to know some things about Mark Anthony, which we also really appreciate. We appreciate you, Mark Anthony. Tejan Buchanan, the other corridor player for me. And your three attacking players, your offensive trident, Alphonso Davies, Kyle Larin, and Jonathan David. That is your projected lineup for the Canadian men's national team heading into tonight for Curacao.
And we should mention Kyle Larin linked to Nottingham Forest this week as well. So an interesting story there.
So I guess the forest is becoming a boreal Canadian forest. I mean, it's not just in the Nottingham Sheriff.
Yeah, no, and I think that'd be a good move for Kyle Larin. We talked about him last year in terms of I suggested Brighton might be a good landing spot for him. That kind of level of team, lower level premiership where he would get a lot of starts. But at any rate, that said, speaking of Kyle Larin, I think the only change I might make to that is that John Herdman might throw Cavallini out to start because he's in Vancouver and you got the home crown thing there. Also, he's more in season right now. Not doing too bad for the Whitecaps at this moment. This might be the best stretch of Cavallini for the Whitecaps the past month or so. So
it might be the best stretch of Cavallini's career over the last 5 years. Not even kidding.
Yeah, well, since you left Mexico anyway, yeah.
Well, even when I broke down Cavallini's Mexican record over the last few years, I was doing some stats and some work and some research. In his 3 years, the first one was really good, and then when he was on loan, and then when he was bought out, and it was different. Yeah, and there's something about contract years with Cavallini, and guess what? His contract is up at the end of this season, so we're seeing a resurgence of performance for Lucas Cavallini.
Yep, and he wants to play the World Cup too, and he think he will, unless he gets injured or his form completely falls off. But yeah, no, that's the only thing I might do there. I think Kay will play a role similar to what you might see Orzario play if he's healthy, in terms of a link-up play that kind of does the ugly work in the middle, not necessarily all that involved in the attack. Eustáquio is who pulls the string for this team normally, so we don't really need to see him. This is Carousel. They're not a bad team. They're not. They beat Honduras in San Pedro Sula, although that's really becoming not that much of an accomplishment.
No, you're very right. It's not an accomplishment.
It's been since 2019 since Honduras won at home. So
wow. That's a big deal. All right. Well, we talk about Curacao, and let's break down Curaçao's lineup. This was their lineup last game, and because of the lack of depth, I do believe they will play the A lineup, which is this team against Canada tonight. Here is Curaçao's predicted lineup, according to yours truly. Eloy Room in net. Yes, from the Columbus Crew. Eloy Room in net for Curaçao. Goalie in my back line, which is a 4-2-3-1. That's how they play. Maria. No, not Santana's Maria. It's another Maria. Here's a great example of the Dutch background players. Van Heijma is playing in center back, in my opinion. Narciana will be there as the other center back, with number 3 also there. But I want to bring your attention to a couple players here. Let's talk about the real players that will be important and dangerous in this one. The best scorer in the history of this program is Leandro Bacuna, who's the number 10, plays as a 10, and he will be dangerous against Canada. Rangelo Hanga, who's the number 9, he's also the best scorer of this team. 13 goals in 24 games with a 55% efficiency rate in goal scoring. Yanga, number 9, will be dangerous. Same for Bacuna tonight. Look out for those two players. And then if you want to bring it further down into the lineup, you can have maybe an argument making Cuco Martina as one of your defensive stalwart. He has played the most game for Curaçao in their history. Cuco Martina has played 55 games since 2011. He's a veteran and one of the oldest players in this present squad, with Rijairo Mullins, who has some Dutch descendancy. That is your projected lineup for Curaçao, and I do believe it might be a little harder than anticipated, but because of the circumstances of this week, I anticipate, Duane, a quite offensive and a performance show, a fireworks on the pitch for the Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, there's been some weird results in international football over the past little while in the Nations League in Europe. You look at that. I mean, Belgium got smacked down, which, maybe you could look at as a positive thing, but also it's the burnout factor. So that's the only caveat. Like, I like to throw a few dollars down on international football sometimes. I have cleared out my account and I'm not touching it for this one because it's just too unpredictable this window. And I think that has to do with the long European season and players just kind of being in between. Like, they were joking that Jack Grealish at halftime of the England was like squeezing out beer sweats from his jersey, right? Like, I mean, they're kind of on holiday in a lot of cases. That said, I think this Canadian team will have something to prove. That there is a lot of excitement around the fact they're going to a World Cup. There's going to be some frustration. We've talked about this in election. The carousel. Look, we're going to be talking a lot about countries at this level in the lead up to 26. A long time before we get that, but let's remind you folks that the 26 World Cup is expanding, ridiculously expanding to 48 teams. That means that you're going to have 5.5 teams that a CONCACAF goes. So countries in that carousel range will think that they have a chance to get into that lower level 5, 6, maybe get a playoff spot to go to a World Cup. So there is interest here if you're a football geek, which most of our listeners probably are, right? Like, I mean, we're Canadian fans, but we're also deep in the weeds.
And if you're not a geek, if you're just joining us and you're enjoying this deep dive into soccer, welcome to the show. Yeah. Everyone is welcome to this beautiful show. You don't need to be a geek, but if you are, you're also welcome to stay.
Lots of geeks. You can be a geek in many cases. I mean, I was talking about Railroad Tycoon earlier today with a friend. Remember that video game from the 90s? Love that game. That makes me a geek. Also, Doctor Who. Big Doctor Who fan here, too. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about football.
You're missing it in your studio. I don't see you should have a tortoise like next to the plant between the U sector picture and the plant.
I could see it. Would you like me to bring the TARDIS in for tomorrow? I can bring the TARDIS in for tomorrow. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. Bring the TARDIS in. So that way you'll have a way out if you need to escape quickly. Like, I can take my tortoise and go somewhere.
I used the TARDIS on Saturday to go watch Hamilton play TFC in the 2020 Voyageurs Cup final.
Because you went back in time.
Yeah, which TFC won a shootout. They won a shootout. TFC won a shootout. How'd that happen? Anyway.
Yeah, how did that happen? And that is very interesting. But tonight, once again, Canada, Curacao at BC Place. It should be an interesting matchup. There's still tickets available and nice discounts. And if this discounts actually makes you mad because you paid full price, there's probably things you can do about it. But make sure you don't miss tonight's game. We'll be back tomorrow with a breakdown of this. And you can find also more of our coverage on the Patreon exclusive show called the Two Solitudes Podcast at patreon.com/2solitudes. That is where also you can find ways to contact us if you are in need of help with your multimedia and content creation. You can find my website with my company and all the services we can do at spinmediadigitalsolutions.com. And thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped, get 20% off and free shipping worldwide when you go to manscaped.com and use code SOCCER today. That's 20% off and free shipping worldwide with code SOCCER today at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the proper tool for the job with Manscaped. Until tomorrow, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramie. We wish you a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.